All right, welcome to 1-5 on notes on statistics and graphs. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is a stem and leaf plot. This is a quick way to organize large amounts of data. So what I want you to do is pause the video here because you need to write down these 4 steps. And let me zoom it in a little bit for you. So, whew, zoomed it in a lot for you. All right, go ahead and pause here so you make sure that you get all of these written down. All right, so hopefully you have those all written down and talking about making a stem and leaf plot. So here's an example, and you see this in your notes. We have all this data in this box here that they give us, and so a stem and leaf plot takes it and organizes it in numeric order from least to greatest, and then it matches them up without having to write them all out. So in the first row we have a 6 and a 3, so that stands for 63. Then we have a 6 and a 5, so that gives us 65. 6 and a 7 gives us 67. And then 6 and 8 gives us 68. So this is just another way to organize that data. And so this is called stem and leaf because we have our stems on the left side of the line and our leaves on the right side. You will notice if I have duplicates of numbers, like then I write multiples of them. So here I have 3 86s. All right, so we have some data here, and I'm going to zoom back out now. We are going to put this into our stem and leaf plot. So the first thing to make it easier on ourselves is to write our data in order from smallest to greatest. That helps me. Not everybody needs to do it, but I find that helps me. So I'm going to write it out here. I have 21. I have another 21, 22, 23, 24, 37, 44, 47, 49, another 49, 51, 52, 53, 61, and 65. This helps me to keep things organized. So now I go ahead and I make my stems. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. All right, so now I'm just going to start with my leaves. I have 2 1s, and then I have a 2, a 3, and a 4. Then for my 3s, I only have a 7 for 37. Then 40s has a 4, a 7, and 2 9s. And then 51, 52, 53, so 1, 2, 3, and then 61 and 65. All right, so there's our stem and leaf. So if you're still going ahead and working on that, pause the graph here so you can get that down. Otherwise, here's the same picture that I just did on the previous slide. So I'm just going to have us answer a few questions. So what was the highest fee earned? So based off of my stem and leaf, my highest fee earned was $65. What was the lowest fee earned? So that's the smallest amount of money, so that would be our $21. Okay, then how many times were babysitting fees earned? So if I want to know how many babysitting fees were paid out, I'm just going to go ahead and count all of my leaves. So I'll give you a moment here to count all of your leaves. All right, how many of those did you come up with? You should have had 13 leaves. If you didn't, either recount them or make sure that you didn't miss one when you wrote them. And what's the difference between the highest and the lowest fee? Well, the highest fee was 65 and the lowest was 21. So you're going to go ahead and subtract those two. And we find out that fee, or the difference between the highest and the lowest, was $44. Okay, so that is our information on stem and leaf plots. You're going to have to do one on your homework. You might have to interpret one later, but nothing too terribly big on that. Now we're going to talk about box and whisker plots. Okay, so this one we have a lot of vocabulary to start with, and then we'll go ahead and make a box and whisker plots. Ugh. All right, so lower extreme is the lowest number. This is our lowest number of data. The upper extreme is our largest number. All right, our median is the middle number. The lower quartile is the lower 25%. So then the upper quartile is the upper 25%. Or this occurs at the 75% mark. Okay, so your upper 25% is you have 75% below. And the interquartile range is the middle 50%. Then we talk about our range. You're going to take your largest number and you're going to subtract your smallest number. Largest minus the smallest. Outliers, those are a data point that doesn't appear to belong. So a data point that doesn't appear to belong. All right, and then we've seen these two before, mean and median, or mean and mode. Mean, remember, is our average, so we add all of those numbers up and we divide by how many we have. And then mode is the one that appears most often. And I like to keep in mind mode starts with M-O and most often is M-O. Okay, so if you don't have those written down, go ahead and pause here so that you do get them written down, because we are going to talk about creating a whisker and a box and whisker plot. And then we'll go back up and do that lengths of the 13 fish caught on Lake Minnetonka. All right, so creating a box and whisker. First, you're going to order numbers smallest to greatest. Then you're going to find, you're going to find the 5-number summary. And so what that is that's the minimum, that's quartile 1, that's the median, quartile 3, and the maximum. And we'll talk about how to find those and remind you how to find those when we go ahead and do an example. Okay, then we're going to draw a number line. And then lastly, we're going to create our box and whiskers. All right, pause here if you don't have those written down. Otherwise, join me on this next slide. We are going to create one for our lengths of fish caught on Lake Minnetonka on August 15th. So the first step says order the numbers from smallest to largest. Okay, so I already have them in order, so go ahead and follow me. 5, 6, 8, 2 9s, 2 3 12s, a 13, 2 14ths, 16, and 20. And so we are going to use the numbers written in order to help us come up with our box and whisker plot. So the first thing we're going to find is our 5-number summary. So the first thing we find is our minimum, and that's our one down here. This is called our lower extreme. This is our minimum. And then as opposed to the minimum, we also have our maximum or our upper extreme. So this is our maximum. And then, so you have your lowest number, you have your highest number, and you need to find your median. And so that's the one that's exactly in the middle And I like to keep in mind like a median when you're driving is in the middle of the road. So that helps me remember that the median of my number line is, or of my data is in the middle of it. So a lot of times people like to take their pens and like cross off. So go ahead and do that if you'd like. I'm not going to do that just so that I can see my data. So I'm just going to use my fingers, which obviously you can't see in the video. So I'm going to follow my fingers here. And right now I am finding that this 12 here is my median. It's the middle number. So this is my median. So this is my halfway. This is also my quartile 2. This is my 50%. Okay. All right. So then what we have left is our upper and our lower quartiles. And so these are new to us. So we're finding where we hit our 25% and where we hit our upper 25% or our 70%. So we do this in the same fashion that we just found our median. The thing that we skip is we don't include our median. We're going to be looking at the numbers here from 5 to this 12 for our lower quartile. So same fashion, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use my fingers to point. If you want to cross numbers off, that's fine. So my 5 and 12 cancel, my 6 and 9 do. Oh, and then my 8 and 9. So my median at this, or my lower quartile, occurs between 8 and 9. So you're thinking, I have 8 plus 9, and I'm going to divide by 2. So what's in the middle of that? Well, 8.5. And I know that a lot of you are like, well, Mrs. Matheson, in the middle of 8.8 and 9, it's 8.5. But what if it was an 8 and a 17? You're still going to have to add the 2 and divide by 2. Okay, so this is my lower quartile. Lower quartile. This is, so we say this is quartile 1. This is where your 25% occurs. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use these upper piece. And I'm going to go ahead and find the upper quartile. And so my 12 and my 20 cancel, my 13 and my 16, and my 14 and 14. So my quartile 3 occurs here. Again, you all know 14 plus 14, and I divide by 2 gives me 14. But what if they weren't the same number? You're still going to add the 2 and divide by 2. So this is my upper quartile. This is Q3. This is where like I have my 75%. So what that means is 75% of the data is that way and 25 is the other way. Okay, so we've hit our 5 number summary. Those are the ones that we have circled. So now step 3 says draw a number line. So I'm actually going to throw an extra page in here and change how you see this so that we can look at the data and I can see the picture here. Okay, so give my numbers there. All right, so I'm going to draw my number line. Now when I draw my number line, I need to go from 5 up to 20. And I need to write every single number, but only once. Remember, this is a number line. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, I hope I don't run out of space. 17, 18, 19, ooh, and a 20. Whew, we're like right on the edge. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in my 5 number summary. I'm going to draw lines at them, and it's not going to be on my number line. It's right above my number line. So my lower extreme was 5. My upper extreme was 20. Okay, and then my median occurred at my 12. And then my lower quartile was 8.5. And my upper quartile was 14. So you can see my colored lines corresponding with those colored numbers that I have circled on my previous slide. And then the last step is we got to make that box and whiskers. So we make our box here. And then my whiskers connect those last two. All right, and so this is a box and whiskers of our data. I'm going to change my marker color to something we don't, let's go with orange. Okay, so let's interpret this box and whisker data. What occurs in this first line is 25% here. So we said 25% of my data occurs at my lower quartile. We have that here. 25% of my data is in this whisker. And that is, we talked about the upper 25%. So that means in each of these boxes, I see another 25%. So in my entire box, this is 50% of my data. There we go, 50% of my data. So now remember, box and whiskers are not going to be evenly split, because if you look at my data, I have, 12 is my middle number. Well, 12 isn't the middle number between 5 and 20. That's fine, but 12 is the middle number of my data. Okay, so that's a box and whisker plot. You will have to draw one of those on your homework. And I think you do, I know you do on your review, and I'm pretty sure you do on your test. So make sure that you know how to do that. So if you need to go back and rewind, watch it again, that might be advisable. All right, I'm going to pop my view back here, and let's go ahead and, oops, there's our box and whisker plots, the same one. Okay, so let's talk about correlation. So go ahead and jot this in that left-hand box on the last page of your notes. Correlation, it's the degree to which two or more attributes or measurements on the same group of elements show a relationship. So this is taking two different pieces of data and we are comparing them. Sometimes if we took, let's for example, take everybody's height in the high school and everybody's shoe size in the high school, and we graphed them against each other, we're looking for how do those two numbers relate to each other. So here we have more pictures. We have degree of correlation. It says strong positive and strong negative. Notice they're really close to being like a line that data is at. Strong positive is because this has positive slope. A negative correlation has a negative slope. All right, so the closer it is to a straight line, the stronger the correlation. So for example, if you talked about from when you are born, you're talking about your height and your weight until you're 2, that's when you do like a ton of growing, you're going to see a strong positive correlation. The taller you get, the more you weigh. Okay. Then we also have what's called like weak positive correlation and weak negative. You'll see that this is a lot farther away from being a straight line, but we still see that general positive slope or a negative slope. A moderate correlation looks here. This one is close to each other. And then we have ones that have no correlation. No correlation looks kind of like buckshot. It's just kind of random on there. So if you said the length of your hair and your height, well, generally that's not going to correlate. It doesn't say, oh, people who have long hair are shorter or people who have short hair are taller. That we don't see that. Those two don't correlate. Okay. If we talked about your GPA and your number of pairs of shoes you own, those generally don't correlate. They don't have a relationship. And so that's talking about correlation. So just being able to kind of identify that correlation. And that's where we're going to end with your notes for today. As always, go back, rewind, watch it again if you need some help. Otherwise, feel free to reach out. Thanks, guys.